Welcome once again to the Essential Space. We've spent a fair amount of time discussing keeping people safe these days in our schools, at our places of business, all the ways to keep our environment safe and looking good. We want to turn this discussion toward keeping things safe in a different way. Our business and market share also need protection, and Essential has a proven program to help with this. We want to talk a little bit about private branding product for our distribution network. Today we're back with Jake Minot. Hi, Jake.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Just great. Great for a Monday morning, right?
That's right.
So, Jake is here to give us a little insight or a lot of insight on private branding products and what that means. Let's start this conversation with why is private branding important?
So I think really before we dive into why, the thing I want to look at first is why not private brands. So what I want to do is dispel some of the misconceptions there are out in the industry about private branding. So number one is people automatically assume because it's a private brand that it's really expensive. That the process is really expensive to undertake, and it's actually quite the opposite. Private brand, if you do a private brand through Essential Industries, it's no more expensive than buying our Essential brand. So cost isn't really a factor when we start looking at private branding. Another misconception is that it requires large orders, which isn't the case. Typically our minimums are about a pallet per package size. So if you're buying 5 gallon pails, it's going to be 36 to a pallet. So the minimum to private brand isn't as large of a volume as people would imagine. Another thing is people kind of automatically assume that because it's a private brand, it's going to be your brand. So we're going to give you some cheap, watered down product. And that's not the case either. You have access to our full line. We don't touch the formulas in any way. We're simply just putting your brand on the pail versus the Essential brand. And then the last thing that people seem to think is that because it's a private brand, it's going to be some cheap, generic, boring looking label. Looks like somebody printed off of their printer at home. And that's not the case at all. We have a wonderful design team that does a phenomenal job in coming up with these private brand looks for these companies. So I just want to start out with kind of dispelling a few of those misconceptions.
So, Jake, if I can interrupt,
Yep.
so let's talk a little bit about those misconceptions because that's exciting news. I mean, for someone that is a purchaser or someone that is looking into doing this, finding out that it's first and foremost not an expensive direction to go, and it doesn't require a large order, and it's not just a cheap knockoff product that we're putting in there. That's great information. So, but again, back to why would I want to do private branding? Why is it important and what is it going to do for me? Where do I start? Like, why do I care?
So if you look at our industry today, the number one we see with distribution is we're kind of following this model of this race to zero, right? So there's no
Okay.
margin protection, especially with so many distributors out there today. Wherever you're located, wherever you're listening in from, you probably have a competitor right down the road from you somewhere. So when we look at everybody's buying these same national brands because you do have good quality product. It's kind of tried and true. There's some name recognition there, so that kind of influences people to stick with national brands. The thing we forget about is we're all going after the same business as our competitors with the same products. So
Okay.
really the only differentiation that you have is price. So we get into these pricing wars, this race to zero where we have to be a few cents cheaper than our competitor, otherwise we're not going to get the business. And it's because we're using the same product. So when you do a private brand, you put your name on it, it's your product. Nobody else has that product. So you really start protecting those margins and you get out of that kind of race to zero with the national brands.
So my competitor that sits in the store next to me may have a very similar product, but because it's branded under my name, I can compete in the price war, I guess is a good way to put it. Wonderful. So who are the consumers that care about this? Who are the ones at the end? So we're supplying the store distributors. We get them to realize that private brand is important. So who's on the other end? Who are the end users that are thinking that I'm gonna look at this product? I mean, what are they looking?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things in the question that you just asked. Number one is when you look at our product offering, and again, it goes back to our technology, our research and development, the fact that we truly are a polymer manufacturer. It allows us to create some really unique products that we can offer you in your private brand. So I can hand you 10 or 12 products that I guarantee you can go make money today on because they are unique in the marketplace. That's a big factor is not only having a private brand and a nice look to your label, but we really tout the juice that's in the bottle. That's what we're best known for, is putting together those programs. So having unique products that allow you to make money because your competitor down the street isn't going to have something exactly like what we're offering. So that gives you some uniqueness. Another thing it allows is when we start looking at bids, whether it's school bids or government bids or whatever it is, we offer some uniqueness there. A lot of times when you have a customer who's putting together a bid, they'll rely on you for some information on what they should be including in the bid as far as specs go. Again, if we think about essential industries, what we're known for in our coatings, let's say you're specing in a floor finish into a school bid. If you can get the school to spec in, let's say, a 19% solid floor finish. If you look at all of our competitors, nobody stocks or makes a 19% floor finish, and it's because they buy a pre-made polymer, so they can't really
Yeah,
dictate what solid they make that finish at, whereas we can. So if you spec in something kind of unique like that, you've pretty much guaranteed that you're going to win that bid because you're the only one with a 19% solid floor finish. So there's some really good benefits to bids that go in there. Another thing we look at is marketing. And I tell people this all the time. Like, how much money do our distributors spend on marketing themselves and their company? And typically it's not a lot. It's
right.
kind of one of those out of sight, out of mind things. So when you do a private brand, you're putting out free marketing into every single one of your customers. So you send them a gallon of neutral cleaner with your brand, and everybody who walks through that facility, maybe they see that bottle, they see your brand on there. It gets them to start asking, okay, who is this? This facility is really clean. It smells really good. What
Right.
products are they using? In that case, they're going to see your brand sitting in the janitor's closet or sitting on the cleaning cart, whatever it is. So you get some really cool free marketing out of this program as well.
Great information. Thank you, Jake, for joining us. We look forward to continuing the conversation. And if you have any questions, pose them in our LinkedIn comments. And we look forward to the conversation. Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.